A man who has lived the All-American life. You scored the winning touchdown in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
You worked on Spartacus with Kirk Douglas. And the English roots of our All-American game.
They're both gladiatorial sports. They're both contact sports.
Today on NFL Films Presents.
NFL Films Presents is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
New York Jets will be kicking off. Ellis Hobbs, a couple of yards deep in the end zone.
In week 1 of the 2007 season, the Patriots' Ellis Hobbs returned a kickoff against the Jets, 108 yards for a touchdown.
He's going to go the distance.
Hobbs' gigantic jaunt set a record for the longest kickoff return in NFL history, breaking the previous record of 106 yards. A mark first set by this man back in 1956, former Green Bay Packer Al Carmichael. All right, 106 yards. Tell me that story.
They kicked a very deep ball, and I took off.
And this is where the fireworks begin. The Packer pyrotechnician is Al Carmichael. The ball is taken 6 yards deep in the end zone by Carmichael, the California Comet. Al opens the throttle on number 48 and roars like the Super Chief, non-stop 106 yards for a spine-tingling touchdown. This run, the longest in National Football League history.
When they saw you catch the ball that deep in the end zone and you decided to run it out, the coaching staff must have been saying, what the hell is Carmichael doing?
They wouldn't even come over and thank me or say nice going or nothing. The coach was over there with his arm folding, looking the other way. They were all mad at me.
Al chose 106 yards as the title of his new book. Reading it, I soon found out there was a lot more to his life than one long run. Now, how did you decide on this book? I mean, this is a beautiful book. I mean, the pictures in here are incredible. Who's this, Jane Mansfield? Man, what a life, Al, I'll tell you that. Al's life has been a journey through 20th century popular culture, right down to his nickname, Hoagie Carmichael. And to me, that was a songwriter, right?
Right. There was a Hoagie Carmichael, a songwriter and celebrity piano player. That monitor got stuck on me in college.
Al played for the best college team of his day, the USC Trojans, led by Frank Gifford. Here you were with Frank Gifford and yourself in the same backfield, and you talk about matinee idols.
I never in a million years ever thought that I'd ever end up in a major college, but everything just sort of fell in place. And if it wasn't for football, I probably would have been in the university.
Carmichael puts his choo-choo on the express track, and this trip is non-stop.
To play for Southern Cal in the early 50s. I mean, that experience must have been something that was unbelievable. As a kid, I remember growing up and seeing newsreels of your games, and there would be 100,000 people in the Coliseum.
97,000 jammed the Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles to see the battle for the Rose Bowl. USC and UCLA are both unbeaten. Southern Cal gets going. Carmichael for 10. Laterals to Jim Sears, Trojan spark plug, who reverses his field and races 60 yards for a touchdown.
In a legendary game against UCLA, Al had a hand in both touchdowns that sent the Trojans to the 1953 Rose Bowl.
Sears to Carmichael. Southern Cal wins and will meet Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl.
Al quickly found that being the star of America's most high-profile college team had its perks. You took a publicity picture with Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, yeah, she was a beautiful woman. I mean, they sent me out there at 20th Century Fox, and we did the photo shoot.
What was the photo shoot for, to promote the Rose Bowl? Or?
Promote the Rose Bowl, and they had the roses, and I'm handing them to her, and she's giving them back and all this kind of thing. And standing there looking at her, she's not only beautiful, but something that never was transposed on the screen was her eyes, her blue eyes. You could almost look like you're looking in pools.
Al Carmichael fills one of the halfback spots for the Trojans.
In the Rose Bowl, it was Al, not Marilyn, who became a star.
Carmichael, a target in the end zone, complete for the touchdown.
You scored the winning touchdown in the Rose Bowl. Today, that would be like being the MVP in the Super Bowl. After the game, did any of the media come to you and ask you to go on television or do anything?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a request from Gary Moore show in New York. He wanted to fly me out and be on I've Got a Secret.
I've Got a Secret, starring Gary Moore.
So the school allowed me 2 or 3 days to go back there to do that.
Our first contestant, will you come in, please, sir, and have a seat?
Your secret was I scored the winning touchdown in the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
Did you do this out of doors?
Yes.
Was it a football stadium?
Yes.
Were you, by any chance, playing for Southern California?
Yes.
They fished around. Finally, they finally guessed it.
You made a touchdown?
You made the only touchdown in the game.
That's exactly it. He made the only touchdown there. Al Carmichael.
Al's most vivid memory of that day is of the contestant who followed him.
Miss Zsa Zsa Gabor.
He had Zsa Zsa Gabor on that show, and there was all these cops in behind the backstage, and I couldn't figure out why all these policemen. And, I didn't know it, but she was wearing the Hope Diamond. It was in her cleavage right here.
What was her secret, that she was wearing the Hope Diamond?
Yeah, they all guessed who she was.
Is it something that we can see that you're wearing that's different?
You sure can see it.
From here up, did you say?
Not from here.
Well, yes.
I mean, it was huge.
Yeah.
Huge. I'm talking about the diamond. Okay.
But Al's run of good luck came to a halt a few months later when he was drafted by the NFL's Green Bay Packers. Coming from SC to Green Bay, that was like one of the worst places to play at the time. The team was lousy. What was the stadium like? I mean, you were used to playing in front of 100,000 people at Southern Cal.
That was a shock because we practiced on this field, and I'm looking around, it's about a seating of 14 or 15,000. I'm looking at the stadium, I said, this is the high school stadium. They said, yeah. I said, where do you play your games? He says, here. I said, here?
The California kid quickly found that it wasn't just the facilities that were small time, but the players as well.
We had a better line at USC than Green Bay Packers had in 1953, really. And I was a running back, I said, boy, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to get pounded. And I did. My first time I ever carried the ball, we called an end run on a sweep to the left. And I got to the sideline, and 2 or 3 guys carried me out, piled on me. And I looked at the referee, and I went, hey, you know what? You know, he says, welcome to the NFL.
After wearing number 42 as a rookie, Al switched to number 48. He excelled as a pass-catching halfback and return man. Though he never had a winning season in 6 years with the Packers, Al became a star on the gridiron. In the offseason, he would return home to L.A. and work with the biggest stars of the silver screen.
The movie industry, we got started in school. A lot of the athletes would work out in the studios because the studios were all close to the universities and UCLA and SC. And so I went out there in the summer times just to have a summer job, and they gave me what they call a Screen Extra card. Later on, I got in with the stuntmen. In the early 50s, television was coming in pretty strong, and there was a lot of Westerns on TV.
During a break on the set of the TV series Rawhide, Al struck up a conversation with another young actor.
We asked him, we said, what are you doing? He says, I get a line now and then. He said, I'm so sick and tired of saying yes or doing the scene and saying no, one-word lines and what have you. He says, my contract's up and I'm getting the hell out of here. And we said, what's your name? He says, it's Clint Eastwood. And I said, what are you going to do? He says, I'm going to go over to Europe and I'm going to make some Westerns. We said, oh, well, lots of luck to you. God bless you, you know. And he was just a kid then.
There was an interesting relationship between the players and a lot of the Hollywood celebrities.
They sort of admired the athletes. At one of the breaks, I was over getting ready to pour myself some coffee, and Tyrone Power came over and asked me, was I Mr. Carmichael? And I said, yeah. He said, you played at USC? I said, yeah. I thought the next thing he was going to do was ask me for my autograph. They seemed to look up to the athletes like we looked up to them as actors. It was kind of a funny relationship.
Who was your favorite of all the great actors that you worked with?
Oh, Burt Lancaster, without a doubt. I got to know him real well, and I played in a couple of movies with him. Elmer Gantry, Birdman of Alcatraz. He and I became friends.
Now, you were on the set for Jim Thorpe, All-American?
Jim Thorpe, All-American. They wanted somebody to double him, and they picked me, and I doubled his running in football. Distance shots and long shots of him running on the field.
Spartacus. You worked on Spartacus with Kirk Douglas?
I worked on Spartacus a couple of months. We were going to be gladiators. They had guys from UCLA, SC, and Pepperdine, and all different schools. They gave us togas, and we had sandals. You get a beard, you get extra money. A lot of guys had beards.
If you wore a fake beard, they paid you more?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. On the back lot, they had a cage-like prison, big bars, and then they had all these objects that you train as a gladiator, and they shot a lot of scenes in there. We were jumping in, sword fighting.
Al's role as a gladiator in Spartacus proved prophetic. When shooting was finished, he entered a real-life gladiatorial camp. In 1959, the Packers hired a new head coach. You were part of Lombardi's first training camp, right?
It was tough training. He was very stern.
Al did not survive Lombardi's final cut. Did he release you?
Yep.
And what did he tell you?
Well, I had an ankle that I was having trouble with. They probably had written me off by that time. He called me in, and I think he truly felt as bad as I did when he told me he had to let me go because he said, "You're not responding. I've got to build a team here, and your age is playing against you." I think the man really, to me, his face reflected to me that it was pain for him to let me go. That's when I figured my career was over. I figured it was totally done.
But just when he thought he was history, Al would make history, finding new life in a new league. You played in the first AFL game in history.
That's right, correct. We were scheduled, like everybody else, to start playing on Sunday, but we couldn't find a field, so we played against the Boston Patriots on a Saturday night in Boston. All the rest of the teams played the next day, Sunday.
September 9th, 1960 sees the first game in the new Professional Football League at Boston University Field.
Frank Capuca, being the quarterback, called this one play, and I ran the pattern, and I got open. He threw about a 40 or 50-yard pass, and I made a touchdown.
And that was the first touchdown in AFL history.
The very first touchdown ever made, yeah. I have that distinction anyway.
As Al's Hollywood headshots grew older, so did his 106-yard kickoff record, lasting for almost 50 years. Although it no longer stands, perhaps his most lasting achievement still does, his one-of-a-kind book.
I'm not a Heisman Trophy winner or anything like that, so when people see the name and it's 50 years ago, they say, "Who's this guy?" You know? Give me a break. But if they read it, they'll get a kick out of it because it's got a lot of funny things in there.